What's on tap today at Kuz's Corner? We're talking Big 12 TV revenue. We're talking the loss of Texas and Oklahoma. And we're talking how the Big 12 Conference overcomes the revenue loss with those two teams leaving for the SEC. So pull up a chair. Let me pour you out a shot of college football knowledge. Let's go. I want to let you know before I get started, this show is brought to you by a collaboration with Layton Creative and earsnation.com. They've come out with two brand new lines of West Virginia themed shirts. The 90s Kids Edition, which is up on the screen right now, and the Mountain Mama Edition, which is on the screen as well. Go check those out. Links in my description box so you can go find it. Make it easier for you to make that purchase. Now, let's get on with the show. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Kuz. As I said, pull up your chair. Let me pour you out that shot of top-shelf college football knowledge. If you like that kind of content, I ask that you please hit that red subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up if you like this video. Please share it with all of your college sports-loving friends. And please leave a comment below and let me know what you think about the topic of today's show, which is, that's right, Big 12 TV revenue and how the loss of Texas and Oklahoma will affect it, and how the Big 12 may be able to help close that gap a little bit. I've got an idea, and I want you to hear it. The information that I'm going to use for this video today comes from an article I read in the Oklahoman that was written by Mr. Barry Trammell. Trammell wrote an article about, his article focused on Oklahoma State and what they can probably do going forward to help shore up their TV revenue. But I wanted to take his article and apply it to the whole Big 12 Conference, and I've got an idea. First, I'm going to start by sharing with you what Trammell shared in his article, and that's the TV revenue, the TV viewership for each Big 12 team over the last 4 seasons, and this is an average now, okay? And he did it, and he broke it down by network as well. Now, let's first look at Fox. You look at the Fox network. Now, this is current Big 12 only. This does not include the new Big 12 teams coming in. I'll touch on them in just a minute. But first, let's focus on Fox. Oklahoma averaged 3.198 million views per game. Texas is second at 3.15 million views per game. Oklahoma State, 2.89 million. Texas Tech, 2.49 million. Iowa State, 2.48 million. West Virginia is sixth at 2.4 million. TCU, 2.33 million. Kansas State, 2.15 million. Baylor, 2.03 million. And Kansas is at 1.78 million viewers per game. Now let's look at ESPN. Oklahoma leads again, 2.47 million viewers per game. Texas Tech is second at 1.92 million viewers per game, but that was only one game, so it's really not much of an average. And if they were playing Oklahoma or Texas in that one game, then that would definitely skew those numbers. West Virginia is actually third on the ESPN viewership at 1.81 million per game. Texas is fourth at 1.78 million per game. TCU fifth at 1.55 million. Iowa State, 1.46 million. Oklahoma State, 1.41 million. Kansas State, 1.28 million. Baylor, 1.15 million. And Kansas is 10th at 0.95 million viewers per game. Now let's look at ABC. Kansas State's actually at the top of this one at 4.21 million. But there's a catch here. That was only one game, and they played Oklahoma. So that skews that number, okay? Oklahoma is second at 4.02 million. That's over 14 games. Texas is third at 4 million. Baylor, 3.78 million. TCU, 3.63 million. Oklahoma State, 3.39 million. West Virginia, 3 million. Kansas, 2.98 million. Texas Tech, 2.93 million. Now, one thing, though, if you look at all these lists, is that Texas and Oklahoma are at or near the top on every one of them. And every game that these other 8 teams play against those two teams, those numbers are skewed because it's against Texas and Oklahoma. So what Trammell did, which I think was a great idea, is he took the numbers and excluded Texas and Oklahoma. And here's what the 8 teams average per game in viewership without the games against Texas and Oklahoma. Number 1 is TCU at 1.86 million over 14 games, but there's a catch to that. TCU played a game against Ohio State in 2018 that got over 7 million viewers, okay? So that game skewed these numbers. If you take that game out of the equation, TCU is no longer in first place, okay? That would be Oklahoma. State at $1.74 million. Iowa State's third at $1.6 million. West Virginia $1.56 million. Texas Tech $1.56 million. Kansas State $1.31 million. Baylor $1.14 million, and Kansas $0.97 million. Now, where does the new Big 12 come in? Well, Trammell did not include numbers for the new Big 12 teams. However, what I did for the sake of this video, I took the numbers that were presented by my good friend Tony Altimore, who I was privileged to do a video with the other day regarding conference realignment. And I took the numbers he had in his charts for Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston. Now, they aren't 2018 through 2021 like these are. They go back further than that, but it's still directionally a pretty accurate depiction of what these teams will average per game. Cincinnati averages about 400,000 per game. UCF about 600,000 per game. BYU about 700,000 per game, and Houston about 700,000 per game. Now, keep in mind that's against non-Power 5 competition for the most part. So once they start playing Power 5 competition, those numbers will likely come up and be closer to that 1 million range, at least for BYU, Houston, and UCF. What's that tell us? Well, when you take Oklahoma and Texas out of the equation, the viewers per game drops pretty dramatically for these teams. And that tells us what we already knew, and that's when Texas and Oklahoma leave the Big 12, the TV viewership numbers for the Big 12 are going to drop. Now, we already knew that. The question has just been by how much. Now, one thing that Trammell talked about in his article is how much the Bedlam rivalry also benefited Oklahoma State. They got a much bigger pop from playing Oklahoma than any of the other teams in the Big 12, and I'm sure it's because of the in-state rivalry that those two have, right? So he recommended in his article that Oklahoma State find a way to continue their rivalry against Oklahoma every year. And I think that's a great idea, not only for Oklahoma State, but also for the Big 12 as a whole, because that game will draw eyeballs. But I took that a step further. I said, what if there's a way the Big 12 can play Oklahoma and Texas, or even better, play other schools in the SEC as well once Texas and Oklahoma leave? And how can they make that happen? How can the Big 12 somehow come up with some scheduling agreement with the SEC? And here's how I think they might be able to do that. Now, this is all a total theory. This is I'm assuming that Texas and Oklahoma are wanting to leave the Big 12 earlier than 2025, and I'm assuming that the SEC has an appetite for them to do so, right? So all that is an assumption. And I would think, in my own mind, I would think that those entities want that to happen. To me, it benefits the Big 12 to have them leave earlier, other than the financial reasons, obviously, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the Big 12 needs, like I said in the previous video, the Big 12 needs to move on with our new members and get rid of Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma and Texas can move on to the SEC and get on with their future in the new conference. And the SEC can add those two teams, get on with the new conference, and benefit from having them in there and benefit from these obviously good TV numbers. Here's how I think the Big 12 might be able to do that. They can sit down to the negotiation table with Texas, Oklahoma, the SEC, and whatever TV networks are involved in the conversation and say, look here, here's what we want. We will be willing to let Texas and Oklahoma leave early and decrease their buyout. Now, no way should they let them leave for free, and no way should they let them off cheap, but we will reduce it some. And obviously those numbers are up for negotiation. We'll reduce Texas and Oklahoma's buyout some if the SEC agrees to a long-term scheduling agreement with the Big 12, the new Big 12. And if I'm Oklahoma State, I make sure that includes the Bedlam series. There's a lot of ways you can do that. You can have, each conference can have 3 out of 9. This is assuming each conference will have at least 3 non-conference games, which is what the Big 12 has now. Make sure at least one of those non-conference games every week includes an SEC and Big 12 game. At least one every week. You could have 2 a week. You could have one every week. Whatever you want. There's multiple ways you can do it. But if I'm the Big 12, I'll figure out some way to make sure I get a long-term 10 to 20-year long-term deal to where my Big 12 teams are playing an SEC team at least every week during non-conference play. I think it makes sense. Heck, you could even set it up like to where there's a game between an SEC and Big 12 school every week of the season if you wanted to, probably. I'm sure you could juggle conference schedules around to make that happen. But some way, somehow, in some way, shape, or form, if I'm the Big 12, I'm utilizing and leveraging Texas and Oklahoma wanting to leave early for that. Now, like I said before, that's assuming that Texas and Oklahoma want to leave early, and I would think they would. Like I said, why in the world would they want to hang around and be lame ducks in a conference that they're leaving? And if I'm the Big 12, why do you want two teams in your conference, in your mind, left on bad terms and in an unethical manner? And do you really want them winning your conference for the next 2 or 3 years potentially? I wouldn't. So let them go, obviously not at a cheap price, but get something in return. Get a long-term scheduling agreement with the SEC that will help boost your TV revenue, that will be attractive to the networks. Personally, why not try it if I'm the Big 12? Whoever the new Big 12 commissioner is, if you're listening, which I doubt you are, but if you're listening, sit down at the negotiation table with the SEC, with Texas, Oklahoma, work out a scheduling agreement in order for them to leave maybe a year early, 2 years early, whatever it is. Make it happen, Big 12. Make it happen. Well, Cousins Corner family, let me know in the comment section. What do you think about my idea? Do you think it's totally crazy? Do you think it has zero chance of working? Or do you think, hey, it's a pretty good idea. Why not give it a shot? And look, it's way above my pay grade to sit here and tell you how the schedule would work out. I'm not good at that. And quite frankly, I don't want to do it. But, hey, whatever the powers that be can do to make it happen, make it happen. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Guys, don't forget, today, June 14th, 2022, is the last day you can take advantage of the 20% off sale going on in my merch store. So go check that out. Also, if you like the hat sitting over my right shoulder, I've gotten a lot of compliments on that hat that I wear in a lot of my live streams, and it shows up in the background of most of my videos. I've had people ask me where to get it. I'm not sure where you can find it now since I've bought it. I've not been able to find it anywhere else. But there is a hat similar to that on Amazon. And if you hit the link in the description box right now to Amazon, it will take you to that hat that I'm talking about. And, hey, it's not exactly like it. It doesn't have the mesh on top or mesh in the back, but, hey, it's similar. Still got the little emoji man on the front, the Angry Mountaineer emoji. So go check it out. We're using the Amazon link. You can get the hat you want, potentially, and also, in the process, help out my channel. There's a join button right below. You can join Cousins Corner and become a member. There's perks that come with that. And if you want to support me absolutely free, it's the big four like I mentioned in the beginning. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. All that helps me out. I really appreciate you tuning into this video. And until next time, Q Country Roads.